what's going on, peeps? How you doing? Avram Gonzales here. Good to see you here for this. It's kind of like a last-minute little mini workshop that I wanted to throw for you here. I've been super inspired on the last few days with some really interesting and magnificent, I guess you could say, manifestations that have happened really quickly. It's like I go through these like stages where certain things. I'll go in like this phase where certain things show up like really fast. And right now is one of those phases that I wanted to share with you the magic behind what it takes to manifest things very quickly during today's little mini workshop. So my hope for you is that you walk away today with new skills and a new tool set to start inviting more prosperity and more income, more love, more happiness, like whatever it is that you want to attract in your life, more of that into your daily experience. And so if you're new here today, welcome. Let me know in the comments below who you are, where you're from. Say the word donut in the comments below this video. There's a comment box down there. Please comment. Let me know that you're here, that you're pumped up, that you're excited. And say the word donut if you're new here today and you haven't been with me on a live broadcast before. So I want to keep this like super short, super sweet. Like I've got dinner on the stove in the crock pot, and so I'm pretty hungry and I want to get to that too. And I know you've got stuff, you're busy, you have things that you want to jump into as well. So I'm going to be super quick and to the point tonight. Again, if you've never met me before, my name is Avram Gonzales, and I am I guess you'd call me like the quantum leap coach. I'm the dude that can help you move from point A to point B instantaneously. And it may sound a little bit far-fetched, but we're going to actually get into the science of how this actually works during this quick little workshop that I'm doing today. And so if you want to participate, you'll get the chance to participate here in the comments below. I'll be reading your comments, seeing what's going on, give you some little bit of feedback on the stuff that we'll be working on. And like I said, I want you to leave here today with some cool new tools to help you manifest things like that. And so I want to share with you actually really quick before we dive into today's content. First thing I want to do is I want to point out the difference between asking empowering questions and asking disempowering questions, because if the stuff in your life is showing up and it's not what you want, right? Maybe it's some drama, maybe it's a little bit crap, maybe it's like not enough money, maybe it's like bad relationships and stuff. I guarantee that you've been asking some disempowering questions that aren't working for you. So I want to flip the lid, give you some more empowering questions, actually two of my favorite tonight. And we're going to do a little bit of back and forth to help you create some empowering questions that you can ask for yourself and that you can ask over and over and over again. I'm going to share with you a little bit about why setting your intention and creating intentions, why they're effective, but they're not as effective as asking questions. I'm going to actually show you how to bring the power of those two things together. And then there's some other stuff I'm sure that we'll talk about as well. But the inspiration for this sort of like last minute workshop, and I want to thank you for being here because like spirit, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, really was just knocking really loud on the door for me to put this little mini workshop on, even though it's like a little bit last minute. And I want to thank you for being here, for answering that call from spirit, and that maybe that call that's been inside of you to get your hand on some new tools that you can use to better your life. And so really the inspiration for tonight's little webcast is actually these pieces of paper. And you can see there's a lot of writing. There's my, you probably see it here, like I got some chicken scratch writing, and there's actually on each of these pages is a big part of my morning ritual. So maybe you have meditation as a morning ritual. One of the things that I have is actually asking questions. You might be asking yourself, well, like, why asking questions, and why should I even bother paying attention, paying close attention to the rest of this mini workshop? Tony Robbins says that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And so big questions and really good empowering questions will always lead to amazing, magnificent, and even magical things showing up in your life. And so what I've been doing lately, more and more and more, is actually writing down as many powerful, big, and impactful questions that I can possibly come up with first thing in the morning. And I want to share with you what's happened as a result of that. There's a question here on this page I'm going to share with you in a second that I asked this question. Okay, I asked this question for the first time, and within 4 to 5 hours, okay, boom, the results showed up, right? Cool stuff. And I'll share that question here in a second. There's another question on here that I asked, and I ask about 25 of these questions a day. It's about all I can fit on this piece of paper. I asked another question, and the answer showed up, physically manifested within like 28 hours of me asking the question, and way beyond what I had actually anticipated. See, there's actually a science behind asking questions, and this is why this works. See, I learned law of attraction and stuff like that for the very first time through like The Secret, you know, which is all about putting your thoughts out there, putting your intentions out there, and what you think about, you bring about. You know, what I discovered later was that that is the foundation of creating a life of magic where you attract exactly what you want. The missing piece for me for the longest time was actually learning how to ask the right questions, because you've heard it before. Ask, believe, and receive. That's how the law of attraction works. But the thing is, you know, no matter how much I read about it, I didn't actually get what it meant to ask questions. Okay, I want you to let this sink in for a bit, because scientifically, you know, science has shown us that even just by observing a molecule, that the act of observing it changes its state. You know, that what you're looking at changes when you look at it. You know, Dr. Wayne Dyer has a quote that's something like, you know, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's the foundation of what it truly means to be in the question and ask the question. Okay, and that's what I'm excited to share with you here right now, because if you learn how to ask the right questions, okay, you literally begin to mold, bend, and change the reality that's right in front of you. This is more powerful, I believe, than putting your intention out there. Why? Because when you set your intention, most of the time, when you set your intention to create a specific goal or some sort of target or to reach some sort of level, right? At least that's how I was taught to set my intention. Problem with that though is that when you set an intention like that, you actually limit what you can create in your life. Because is it not true that, you know, life is magical and you can create even beyond what your imagination can conjure? It's true, right? You've had stuff happen in your life that's sort of like miraculous. Well, asking the question is actually stepping into that miracle. Okay, it's stepping into that space where you're in touch with all the molecules and you're asking them to work on your behalf. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, let me give you an example of a really great question that you can ask. I'll give you the example of the question that I asked that created a physical manifestation that wasn't just like a free cup of coffee, even though that kind of stuff is cool, right? A physical manifestation within 5 hours. And of course, I've had this happen where I've asked a really powerful question and then it showed up within seconds or minutes of it happening. Like that's possible too. But I was so inspired to do this workshop because of this one question I'm going to share with you here. And then what I want to do after that is give you an outline of how to ask really, really powerful questions so that you can take this stuff and apply it to your life, like starting right now. Okay. So here's the question that I asked that created an instantaneous transition. So I asked, here. Okay, I said, here's the question that I asked. And I just, when I ask these questions, I just sort of put it out to the universe. Why? Because when you want to create something, the how is not really up to you. You see what I'm saying? You've probably heard this before. The how is not really up to you, but you have to position yourself to be open to receive those possibilities in the first place. The question is the first part, and it's the most important part for you manifesting whatever it is that you want. Okay, so here's the question that I asked. Okay, I asked, what would it be like to be featured on generative telesummits, podcasts, and major news media from all over the world just for being me? That was the question I asked. I'll say it again here, okay? What would it be like to be featured on generative telesummits, podcasts, and major news media from all over the world for just for being me? Cool question, right? I asked that question and I received an email for a telesummit, a new telesummit invite within 5 hours, okay? Why is that a big deal? I've been online and I've been creating my business and my life in a really big way. I've been coaching a lot of people. I've been helping a lot of people. I've spoken on stages from all across the country with thousands of people. And in the last like 3 to 4 years where I've been playing like really, really big, I've been on 2 telesummits ever. And what's a telesummit? It's like a collection of the most fantastic speakers and trainers and coaches and stuff on a specific subject. And in all that time that I've been putting myself out there, I've been invited to like two in like 3 years. I asked this question, I started asking this question, and boom, I got an invite to another one within 5 hours, okay? Here's what's even crazier, is that on this page, the very next day, I took this question. It's the second one here at the top of this page, and it was on the 26th. What's today? The 28th, maybe? So Monday. I got that invite within like 5 hours, okay? And then the next day, on this page, I wrote it again at the very top of my page. I was like, wow, this is like a really good question. I should keep asking it. So this morning, I woke up and I received another invite to another telesummit. So that's 2 invites in less than 48 hours from one simple question. Pretty wild, right? So this stuff works for anything. And this was like why I was inspired to do this and to share this with you, because I want to help you construct empowering questions that allow you to attract money, magic, miracles, joy, happiness, wealth, whatever you want into your life now. Because it all starts with the question. You know, I said I was going to tell you the difference between a disempowering question and an empowering question. I just gave you an example of an empowering question. And then I want to give you some examples, some like fill in the blank questions for you to work with, okay, to start attracting more cool stuff like this into your life, stuff that'll fit perfectly for you, okay? So what's a disempowering question? A disempowering question is like this. Why does this always happen to me? Especially when something terrible, bad, or not so favorable happens in your life. Why does this always happen to me? You notice how when you ask a question like that, the only possible thing that you can come up with is like more judgments and more wrongness about yourself, about why this terrible stuff always happens to you. It's a bad question. It's a disempowering question. Okay, that's an example of disempowering. Is like, why me? Why does this always happen to me? Another example of a really disempowering question is, you know, like, what's wrong with me? You know, if you ask that, the only possible answers that you're going to come up with are all the reasons that you could possibly judge yourself for being bad, wrong, and a terrible person. You know, so those are examples of disempowering questions that actually make your world smaller. They bring you further and further into like self-judgment or judgment of other people. And they don't actually create more in your life. They create less. That's what a disempowering question does. What does an empowering question do? An empowering question opens you up to the possibilities, okay, to the possibilities that are actually available to you. It actually brings you into congruence with the universal law of ask and you shall receive. So this was the example of the empowering question that I asked. What would it be like to be featured on generative telesummits, podcasts, and major news media from all over the world just for being me? That's an example of an empowering question. You see how when I asked that, it opens up the energy, right? It opens up the energy. So I'm going to click over here in a second and I'm going to see who's here, who's commenting, say what's up. And then I want to finish here with the last 5-10 minutes, giving you my 2 favorite like fill in the blank questions that you can start using to invite more abundance and cool and fun stuff into your life. So let me check the other page here, see what's going on, who's here. Looks like we've got like 90 people here, which is awesome, but I don't see any new comments. Friends, I want to see that you're here, that you're excited, that you're participating, that what you're getting is super valuable. See, that's the thing that most people don't realize. You know, if you want life to give you what you want, you have to participate. You have to be involved in the process. I'm putting this workshop on for you, you know, not for me. I'm putting it on for you. That's kind of why I'm here. And it looks like we just got the first comment from Bill Bartlett. I've heard that it's important to engage the mind in what it would be like to get what you're asking for. Yeah, definitely, Bill. Because like the thing is, you know, when you ask a question like, what would it be like? What does that do? You know, let's say you're in a point in your life where you got a lot of scarcity going on. You know, the first of the month is coming. You know, maybe your rent or your mortgage is due really soon. You know, and maybe you don't have the money. Right? I've been there. I know what that's like. When you're in that sort of feeling, that scarcity, for example, well, then what do you do about it? How do you get out of that? Because if you are in the vibration of scarcity, what are you going to attract? More scarcity, right? So how do you get out of that? You ask a question like this: what would it be like? So a good question would be, what would it be like to easily and effortlessly pay my rent or my mortgage every single month on time with plenty of money to spare? It's a good question, right? So when you ask a question like, what would it be like? It automatically takes you from where you are into the energy of what it would be like to experience that. And then boom, you have an instantaneous vibrational shift, and you're calling into action, you're calling into existence so many more possibilities versus sitting there like wondering, oh my God, like how am I going to pay the rent? Which is a decent question. How am I going to pay the rent? Right? But it's almost like, well, is how am I going to pay the rent going to get you in the vibration that you need to pay the rent? Or is what would it be like to pay the rent on time with ease every single time and have plenty to spare? Is that not like an even greater energy to come from? So I love that, Bill. Thanks for participating and jumping out and being the first one, brother. Thanks for being here, man. It's good talking to you today, right? So I want to finish up here with, like I said, I was going to keep this super quick, under half an hour, right? I want to give you my 2 favorite fill in the blank questions. And if you look up and down this page, actually, you'll find that, shoot, 60, 75% of my questions are actually around these 2. Okay, actually around these 2. And then what I want you to do is I want you to come up with a fun question based off of this, put it in the comments below, and then I want to help you make that question even better. Right? Even more empowering, even more magical. Okay. And then I'll share with you why it's more magical, why it's more powerful, so that you can start getting in the habit of asking these really powerful, empowering questions. Sound good? Okay, cool. So the first question, okay, first question is one that we've already done. So it's, what would it be like to fill in the blank? Okay, that's the first thing I want you to do. So I want you to take a second right now and come up with a question and post it in the comments. And then I'm going to give you some feedback here and make your question even better. So this is cool, right? You get like some one-on-one coaching from me just for being here. So what would it be like to? Let me give you some examples of what I wrote, okay? Let's see. I already gave you the first one. What would it be like to have laser focus and undeniable clarity about what to be or do next? So I asked that question because sometimes during the day I get a little bit distracted. And by asking that question, I invite, even if I don't get the answer right away, I invite that energy to come to me. And the funny part is, since I've been asking this question since Monday, I've had more clarity. had more focus, had more motivation to act on the things that have been flowing through me. Let me give you another example, right? What would it be like to create $1 million or more in the final quarter of 2015? It's a good question, right? Because the most money I've ever made in 3 months is like $100,000. So I'm asking a question that would get me to more than 10x what I've done before. And that's the thing too, right? A lot of times we get trapped into asking these really small questions. But what do small questions do? Small questions facilitate small answers. They facilitate small results. It's like, do you want a small life or do you want a big life? Well, you have to ask the big questions. Who cares if you don't believe it? That's not what's important, if you believe it or not. Okay? What's important is that you start by asking the big questions so that you open the doorway to receiving big answers and big results. So that's the first empowering question that you can ask. What would it be like? What would it be like to fill in the blank? You know, what would it be like? This is a question I used to ask all the time. What would it be like to pay off all my debt and have more money than I could ever imagine? That was a question that I asked like 3-4 years ago all the time. And now look, like the magical life that I've created, it's like, okay, it's a result of asking those questions. Okay, what would it be like to make more money than I ever imagined faster than I thought possible? It's another good question. So let me see what you're throwing here in the chat. Raymond says, what would it be like to sponsor 25 new members each month and have more waiting to join? Cool. Good question, Raymond. Here's how I would make it even better. Here's how to make it even better. What would it be like to sponsor 25 new members or more? So use the word or more each month and have even more eager and waiting to join. That's one way that I would like upgrade that question. Here's another way that I'd upgrade the question. What would it be like to sponsor 25 new members who are fun, exciting, enthusiastic, top producers every single month that are fulfilling, fun, and amazing to work with? Right? So adding those sort of adjectives into the mix to make it, to call in something even greater, right? It's like, what if instead of just sponsoring new people, right, you could sponsor new people that are fun and exciting to work with? That would be an upgrade to what you've been asking for right now, right? So what would it be like to sponsor all these people who are super eager, excited, and ready to step into their full potential? Fun question. Let's see what else we have here. Bill says, I love this focus on how to phrase the questions open-ended. What would it be like blank? It opens my imagination. It allows the energy to flow freely into more open places. Yes, totally, Bill. You're getting it, brother. You're getting it. That's exactly how this works. So, hey, friends, this is the chance to, like, for me to help you craft more powerful questions. So if you're here right now, put your example of a what would it be like and fill in the blank. You can ask for anything. That's the fun part about questions. You can ask for anything. You can ask for new, fun, loving friendships or intimate relationships or like whatever, right? Bill says, what would it be like to be earning my income through my passions? Cool. So even better question, Bill. What would it be like to earn more income and more money than I ever thought possible through things that I love to do that are fulfilling and make a massive impact on all the people around me and beyond? It's a badass question, right? I mean, it's probably like this long, right? Like you can see on my page, I got like questions that go like 2 rows and stuff. But why not? Why not ask these questions and ask for exactly what you want? Like, would you be willing to do that? Most people aren't. Are you starting to get right now why it's so important to ask these questions and why they ask is so important in order to get what you want, right? Type yes in the chat below if you're feeling it, okay? Cool, cool, cool. Let me give you the second example of a fill in the blank question that I've been having a lot of fun with, and that you can too. Very similar to the first one. Let me take a drink really quick and we'll jump into it. I've been kind of detoxing a lot lately, like switching my diet up. I've been like, I've cut out like 90% of the meat and protein, like red meat intake that I've had traditionally, and I feel great. And at the same time, I am like detoxing like a mofo, and the water I can say helps every single time. But anyway, it's beside the point. Okay, so second question. Second question that you can ask, it's a great fill in the blank, is this. Okay, here it is. What would it take to blank? What would it take to blank? Good question, right? Good question. Let me see if I can find a good example for you that I wrote here today. What would it take to fill in the blank? So what would it take to quantum leap beyond my current financial reality into something I can't even possibly comprehend how it happened, how big and how fast it came, and how much fun it was to create? What would it take? What would it take to have more fun, more adventure, and more excitement in every single one of my friendships? What would it take for me to have fun in my business every single day and outcreate everything that I was yesterday? Good questions, right? Good questions. Here's a good one too, right? That I've been writing down recently. Hasn't happened yet, okay? But it will, because it all starts with the question. So what would it be like to create my first 5-figure day with total ease? My first 5-figure day, so $10,000 in a single day. I've gotten close, like almost $8,000 in a single day, okay? But I'm asking what it would take to do more. So I wrote that question. I was like, well, if I was asking really a big question, what would I ask? So then I got, what would it take to create our first 6-figure day with total ease? $100,000 in a single day. See, when I asked that question, it's like, it's a little uncomfortable. You know, it's a little uncomfortable. I've earned that in the span of like 3 months, you know, but never in a day. That's the fun part about asking the questions. Like I said, you don't have to believe it in order to ask it. And you don't have to ask it just one time. Like there's some of these questions that I've been asking day after day after day after day, that the part that I'm excited about is like, normally I don't write the questions down. I just think them during my daily meditations and stuff. I'm writing them down now, and I'm able to be here on a little mini workshop with you and literally be able to point out the questions that I've already manifested even in the last 72 hours. So for me, that's the exciting part about writing my questions down now. It makes them more real. I can revisit them. I can see the ones that have been really fun for me to ask that are creating stuff. It's like when you start getting the habit of asking the question, then you start to be the question. So the first example was, what would it be like to fill in the blank? And the second one that we're playing with right now is, what would it take to blank? So when you ask a question like, what would it take? You start getting downloads of like what energy that's required of you, like what energy you need to step into and be. You start getting awarenesses and downloads of the person that you need to become. You start getting downloads of the people that you need to talk to. Cool story about this here in a second. You start getting downloads about what you actually need to create and institute in order to create those things. What would it take to blank? Okay, what would it take to blank? And I asked a similar question. I asked like a what would it take question Tuesday morning. I don't know. Anyway, within like 24 hours, I got a phone call from somebody who I hadn't talked to in like 3 or 4 months that totally blew my effing mind. Okay, totally blew my mind. It was exactly what I was asking for. Okay, the breakthrough, that I've been looking for a long time. It's like no matter how much work that I do, and you can probably relate to this, no matter what level that you get to in life, there's always like the next level. And so I've been like at this certain level in a part of my life for like a long time now, like, I don't know, like 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And I'm like, what is going on that I feel like I'm stuck, right, in this spot? And so I asked the question about what would it take to break through that? And I got a phone call from somebody the next day who gave me that one piece that I felt like I just couldn't reach for the last like 8 months. And it was like, boom, facilitated. I feel like a different person today. I feel like my voice has changed. I feel like I'm standing a little bit taller, and it's like, wow, that's a powerful question. It's a powerful question, but you have to be willing to ask the question first. So that's the second one. It's like, what would it take to fill in the blank? So I want to jump over here and see what sort of, what would it take questions that you put down that I can help you make an even better question. So let me jump over here. What would it take to pay my rent for a year in advance? Ah, yes. Here's a way that I would make this question even better. What would it take to pay my rent for a year in advance with total ease? What would it take to pay my rent for a year in advance? Or here's another one. What would it take to actually never have to pay rent and have all of my needs provided for me easily and effortlessly beyond my wildest imagination? Or what if I didn't even have to pay rent? See, similar question, and I got to wrap this up in a few minutes. I said 30 minutes, we're at 34 minutes. So I apologize, okay? But we're just like really cranking, right? My fiance Nikki asked a similar question to this. Like, what she asked actually, what if I never had to pay for rent? What if I didn't have to pay for rent? What if I could actually live somewhere for free? And she put an ad on Craigslist saying that she's a healer looking for a free place to stay while she, finds a job and gets her legs underneath her. And she actually manifested free living space for like 2 years from a guy who responded back and was like, look, I just want a healer living in my house to take care of it and have a positive energy who's bringing light to the world. You can live here for free. Pretty crazy, right? I mean, it wasn't the best house in the world, but it was a place to live. What would it take to make $5,000 for my video production work? Okay, here's how I'd make that question better, Eric. It's a good question to start with. What would it take to make $5,000 and beyond for my video production work? What would it take to make more money than I ever imagined possible through my video production work? What would it take to make more money than I ever imagined through my video production work and allow it to open up new possibilities from now, forever in the future, and throughout all eternity? Now that's a rip starter of a question, right? So you see, like, you can just add and play with, and here's a tip I'll give you. If you're going to use actual like money's an easy thing to use, right? If you're going to use actual dollar amounts, always ask for and more or and beyond. Because why would you ask for just a fixed amount when the universe is ready and willing to give you something greater? Do you really want to ask a question that's going to limit what you can receive, or do you want to ask for that and more? Right? Might as well ask for that and more or and beyond, right? Other thing is like when you're asking for a specific amount of money, for example, one of the things you want to play with is adding into the equation. Like, what would it take to do that with ease? Because there's a difference between getting $5,000 for your video production work and working your ass off versus getting $5,000 for your video production work and it being really fun and easy. You know what I'm saying? So why not ask for it to be fun, easy, fulfilling, and those kind of things? Good question, Eric. This is good stuff, right? Here's another one. What would it take to complete my writing arena with ease, joy, and cost very little, may turn out better and in the most magical way? Here's how I'd modify that question. Because there's like a little bit of a control or a contraction around costing very little, right? It's like this weird energy around it, okay? So here's a better question. What would it take to complete my writing arena, what would it take to have all the resources and beyond to complete my writing arena and have it turn out better and beyond what I thought possible? So it's like, what if you didn't attach a cost to it, that it must cost very little? What if you just asked for all the resources, whether it's money, time, energy, favors? Maybe somebody wants to gift you a writing arena, right? Would you be open to that? Open to those resources, open to receiving the help required in order to do it? You know, an even better question is like, what would it take to do it in a way that's fun, easy, fulfilling, and has all sorts of people eager and willing to pitch in and help me do it? Why not, right? Why not ask for it? Okay. Eric says, thank you. You're right. I'll begin to ask for that and more and beyond with ease. Yes. Awesome, Eric. Bill asks, what would it take to visit and treat my parents to dinner anytime I'd like with ease? Good. Good question. Good question. It's like, what would it take to visit? It's like, look at, here's one, Bill, like this might be fun to play with, is look at the energy of what you would like to do with your parents. Like I can sense there's something behind treating your parents to dinner. Like there's an energy, you know, maybe it's an honoring of them or gratitude for all that they be, or something like that. So if you look at the energy of what you'd like to create, well, it's like, what would it take to gift my parents that, whatever that energy is that you're looking at, okay, with total ease and in magical ways beyond what I can even imagine right now? Because like, what if it's like a really cool vacation or some other experience, even beyond dinner? Just know I'm not downplaying dinner here, but I'm looking at how you can expand this, right? And looking at the energy that you want to create with this, and looking at the energy and looking at all the ways that you can energetically create that. See, then this is the last thing I'll leave you with, okay? Is if you can look at the energy of what you want to create in life, you can ask about how to create more of that energy rather than get super stuck on the specifics of it. Like, it's fun to ask for specifics. You know, what would it take to create my dream house as a physical reality and a physical actualization faster, more easily, and in more fun ways than I could ever imagine? Like, that's cool, you know, asking for your dream house, right? But it's like, what is the energy of your dream house? What does it bring to you? You know, for me, I recognize that my dream house brings to me like a sense of more space, sense of ease, sense of contribution, a sense of fun, a sense of inspiration every time I wake up within its walls. So I could ask questions also about like, what would it take and what would it be like to wake up every single day inspired, fired up, and excited to take on the day and discover whatever magic it is that is waiting for me, right? So fun stuff. Let me see if there's any more questions in here, because I want to make sure I got, you guys asked some really good questions. All right, cool. I know some of you wrote like a bunch of questions, but I think I gave you some really, really cool stuff anyway. And like I said, I got dinner on the table and I want to get into that here in a second. So do you have any questions about what we've talked about tonight? Throw those in the comments here. There's a little bit of a delay between me saying it and then your comments showing up, which is cool. So I'll talk here for a little bit while you post any questions and stuff that you might have, or just let me know that you enjoyed what was here, that you learn something new, or that you're inspired and you have like these new skills and tools that you're ready to go out into the world and use anyway. Let me know that stuff in the comments below. So while you're writing those questions, I just want to give you a quick invite here, actually. And my computer says it's running out of battery and it might shut down at any moment. So I got to end this here in a second. I want to invite you to become a part of my I Am Abundance Club. It's a monthly membership, okay, where every single week I work with you in a group basis, delivering content just like this, whether it's live or recorded for you, helping address the biggest financial blocks and barriers that are coming up in your life. And so as you can tell, I'm super excited and passionate about this whole piece in asking questions. And so what I'm doing is next week, this coming like probably Tuesday night, I'm going to actually hold a little mini mastermind here, an asking workshop, if you will. And what I want to do is, if you make a decision tonight to click the button below this video where it says, click here to join the I Am Abundance Club, and you decide to join tonight, I'm going to make sure that you have a spot on that panel next week for this mini workshop, so we can get together. We can actually be face-to-face in real time. You can give me some questions. I'll workshop them with you, and we'll create something super amazing that you can take out into the world and just create awesome stuff. I gave you 2 of my favorite like fill in the blank questions tonight. I've got a ton more, but those are like the easiest and simplest ones that you can play with, and which is why I want to make it the focus of what we talked about tonight, okay? And so what I've done is I got 9 slots on that panel for next week, and I've got a bunch of people who are already in the club. So if you're one of 5 people that join here tonight, we got like 90-something people. If you're one of the first 5 people to join the I Am Abundance Club, I'm gonna make sure and guarantee that you're on that panel, that you have a spot on that panel this coming Tuesday night. Okay, and the other thing, the last thing here, and I'm gonna read some of your questions and stuff, is I'm running a special promotion for this I Am Abundance Club where you can get your first month 50% off between now and this Friday at midnight. Okay, this Friday at midnight. And so this is like the best way and the easiest way to get direct access to me in a way that doesn't break the bank. It's easy and open and accessible to anybody. And literally like anybody can afford this, okay? And so that's what's available and what's waiting for you when you click the button below this video and you click the one that says join the I Am Abundance Club. Put in your information there, sign up, and then we'll get you plugged in. There's like a whole slew of bonuses and stuff involved. I don't want to get into that. My computer's going to die here in a second. But you'll be able to join me live for this workshop next week, which is only available to members of the I Am Abundance Club. So it's a group of like-hearted and like-minded people from around the world who are eager and excited to meet you and go on this crazy adventure that we call life with yours truly as your guide, giving you everything that I know that I possibly can in our short amount of time together to have your next big financial breakthrough. So I appreciate you being here with me tonight. I'm going to check to see here if we have any final questions before we go, and then we'll go. Eric says, please read this last question. What would it take to be better at communication? So it's like, what if it isn't about being better at communication? What if it's actually being in greater communion with everybody that you're talking to? What if it's about, what would it take to be totally aware of exactly what I need to say in order for my message to translate effectively? That's a good question, right? Because communication is this weird thing, because it's different for me to communicate what I think should be communicated versus what it's going to take for you to receive it. Like there's all these different people on our Hangout right now. We all receive information in different ways. What I have to do to communicate something to you effectively is different than somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So ask other questions and stuff around that. So let me see if there's any other stuff going on, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Cool. Refreshing the page, and yeah, thanks for joining me on short notice here. It's been an exciting few days for me, and I just wanted to share that cool stuff with you today. Here's another good question I actually have. What would it be like to have the Midas touch starting right now, today, and this day forward throughout all eternity? So everything you touch turns to gold. Good question, right? Yeah, good question. So I want to share that with you this coming week inside the I Am Abundance Club and more, as well as a slew of my other favorite fill-in-the-blank questions that you can play with, you can mix and match, you can use to unlock any area of your life. That's yours when you click the button below this video that says click here to join the I Am Abundance Club. I believe it's a green button. Click that button, put in your credit card information, click submit, and I will see you on the other side. Eric says, this is great. Thank you. Carrie says, thank you. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you next week for the extension of this workshop. So I can actually talk to you physically, arm you with the best questions that I can possibly come up with, and of course, a whole lot more. So thanks for being here, friends. Appreciate you. If you have any questions, you can hit me up via email, Facebook, whatever. I'm just excited for you to be here, and I'm excited for you if you're taking the next step to become part of the I'm Abundance Club and grow your prosperity in every single way. All right, my friends, take care. I'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.